Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the first ever Leicestershire Police Federation podcast. My name is Royston Martis, and I'm really happy to be joined by the wonderful Andy Spence, the chair of Leicestershire Police Federation today. Good afternoon, Andy.
Afternoon, Royston.
Now, Andy, we've got a lot to talk about from the past week or so. So let's start at the beginning. Why did you feel the need to speak out? Why was the Federation so vocal around what the PCC was requesting or not requesting for the council tax precept?
I think if we start at the very beginning, it's really unusual for a chief to go public with the concerns they've got, and it shows that despite all the negotiations, despite everything that's gone on behind the scenes to try and resolve matters, where something hasn't worked and where things are then going to go further forward, that what ends up happening is that public safety is at risk. So when we were told about that, the first thing I've got to think about is the safety of the officers, what that actually means for officer numbers, what that looks like then, because once those officers' numbers are affected, then the public safety is as well. So for me, for myself and Joe, the exec team as well, we sat and looked at it and we were told this could amount to 250 officers. Now that's a huge amount. That's more than 10% of our workforce. Not only that, but you've then got to look at the wider scope of what that means.
What would that mean, Andy? What would that mean if you had, 250 is probably an extreme number, but say even 200, 150 fewer colleagues, what would that mean for the existing remaining colleagues?
So for 250 officers, that's getting rid of all of the frontline service from Colville, Melton, Oakham and Market Harborough. That's half of the county gone. And that's all of that policing presence there, detectives and uniform, just gone in a single swipe of the pen. Now, what the chief asked for here was an increase of £4 per year. That's 1 cup of coffee over the course of a year. That's such a small amount. We're not talking £4 a week, £4 a month, £4 a year. And what Mr. Matthews doesn't want to do is give that to us. And what that will mean is the public safety there is at risk. So for us, as the Federation, we stepped out and we went with Unison as a joint approach to say, if you make this budget cut, if you bring us this deficit, it will affect public safety, and this is how it will affect it.
Andy, why do the police numbers matter then so much?
Police numbers matter. We are the officers who respond to the incidents. We are the officers who are there on the Friday and Saturday nights, the ones who are investigating these crimes. And if we're not there, then who picks up those things? We've got to make a choice at the moment with fewer numbers about what is it we respond to. What is it we leave? And that's what Mr. Matthews isn't being clear about. He's saying, I'm going to take away this money, but he isn't saying what he doesn't want us to deal with.
Yeah, what would you say no to? What could you say no to?
Exactly. And at the moment, we've already been cut to the bare bones. We are already dealing with less than what we were a few years ago. We've already got the right care, right agency things in place. We've got the right people there to call. But now what is it we don't deal with?
What was Rupert Matthews' justification when he was asked, for those that haven't seen it, what was his reasoning for not listening to the experts, for not listening to the chief constable, to not listen to Unison, to not listen to the Federation, to not put that £4 on? What was his reasoning?
It wasn't just the Police Federation and Unison and the chief, it was also the cross-party panel. It was all of his other peers and everybody else in there. And his reasoning was, just because I can increase it by £15 doesn't mean to say I have to. And he doesn't want to increase tax for everybody. Now, I understand not wanting to pass on tax rises, but at what cost? At the cost of public safety? At the cost then of seeing fewer officers on the force? At the cost then of us not being able to respond to things? At the cost of us not being able to say to people, I'm very sorry, but your shoplifting won't be responded to because we don't have the cops? Or the domestic abuse victim or the stalking victim? What is it that we no longer respond to? Because something has to give. We've already got back office functions, which are some of the best and slickest in the country. We're already one of the best performing forces in the country, along with the lowest funded.
So that doesn't add up quite literally, does it?
It really doesn't. We are running so efficiently at the moment in terms of for the force figures, for what we get in to what we output, it doesn't make sense at all.
Now, I think, got some quite good, or you've had some quite good backing from your colleagues, your frontline officers. They're fully behind the Federation on this, aren't they?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what we've seen as well is people reaching out personally to Mr. Matthews to say to him that they are in favour of this £15 precept rise. Not only that, we know that there was a survey that he did, which went out and had 1,500 respondents. That's 0.1% of the population of Leicestershire and Rutland. And most of those respondents said that they would agree with the £15 precept rise.
Well, I think what you and your colleagues have done is, and you've done that today already, Andy, is quite clearly articulate what the reality is behind the numbers. I think that's been really important. And as we know now, that worked, if you like, with the police and crime panel on, I think it was Thursday last week, where they essentially vetoed his proposals. How did that make you feel? I guess, it was a pleasing result because it's what you've been asking for, right?
Absolutely. But why has it got to that far? Why has it got to a police and crime panel for them to sit there and publicly ask him about why he's doing this as well? These are his peers in the room. They are also duly elected. They're holding him to account as well. They have seen all the evidence that's there. There has to be a moment in time where he sits there and says, okay, yeah, I've taken on board what everyone said. I've taken on board what the chief has said. I've taken on board what my colleagues have said. I get it. Right, I'll now give you the precept. And that's what I'm hoping this Wednesday brings about. It's that almost road to Damascus moment where he goes, I get it. Right, yes, you can have your raise.
Because I was going to say, what happens next? And then it goes back to the police and crime panel, does it, on Wednesday this week?
It does, but the panel can't veto the second vote, his second proposal. And it's down to him as to how much he raises it by. So genuinely, he needs to raise it by £15 or up to £15, sorry, because anything less creates this deficit. Anything less is jobs loss.
And how hopeful are you of the right result, or is that too much kite waving? We're not sure.
I don't know. I can't be sure. I really hope that in the middle of all this, that he has taken some sensible financial advice, that he has sat there and looked at it again, that there will not be the looking out at others, and actually he will be looking at the public. Because in the middle of all this, it's not only the police officers, but it's also the public. Because if there aren't the police officers there, it's the public who suffer. And if there aren't the police officers there, I've already been really clear to our membership. Less police officers means more traumatic incidents for the remaining ones to go to. It means less chances of training. It means the ones that are left are more likely to be assaulted as well. We can't have that.
Well, in life, like anything in life, you get what you pay for, don't you, Andy? And it sounds like the PCC is kind of forgetting this, doesn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what it does is it sets up for the next government who comes in, or the next person who comes along later on, to be left with much more of a deficit, to be trying to put things back on track. And we know history tells us that when something has been underfunded for so long, and I'll use prime example here of the police, underfunded for so long, now struggling.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously Rupert Matthews used to be a Conservative, didn't he, before he went over to Reform, and it was the Conservatives that, with the Liberal Democrats, that cut policing in the tens quite dramatically, and it's not recovered yet, has it? Really, if we're being honest.
No, it hasn't. We saw a numbers drop of 20,000 police officers during that time. Even now, we are seeing a real struggle with retention, with officers struggling to stay.
And final message to your members then, as we're not sure when they'll listen or watch this, but with the second meeting of the police and crime panel on the horizon, what's your final message to members on this topic?
If you are concerned in any way, please reach out. Please reach out to your colleagues. Please reach out to us as well. And if you are concerned about what that precept rise could look like, please contact the Police and Crime Commissioner as well. I'd urge you to do that, because it's right that your voice is heard. You are the officers that look after the public. You are the officers that keep us safe in the middle of the night, on the snowy nights and in the hot roasting days. And it's only right that you share your concerns with the Police and Crime Commissioner.
Okay, well, I'm not going to get into on this podcast with you around next steps should the result not go the way that you want, because that is something to react to if and as and when it does happen. But I will ask you, Andy, before we let you go, around the policing white paper that came out a week or so ago now. Andy, what's the Federation's view on? There's two main topics I think that have taken people's attention particularly. One was around the licence to practice for police officers, and one around the potential for forces to merge with other forces. I'll start with the licence to practice, Andy. Your view on whether police officers need it and what will it mean?
What is this just another level of bureaucracy? And where does the cost for that stop? Because if that cost is going to be passed on to police forces, that's taken out from a already depleted budget that we've got. Is that going to be a College of Policing funded thing as well? But the details on that are really not clear. And the other part on that I would say is already within policing, we have to pass the fitness test and our skills training tests every year. But if you move into specialist roles, such as our colleagues in firearms or in the traffic department or in custody or our PIP2 accredited colleagues or our colleagues in intelligence, all of those have regular CPD sessions. All of those have fitness to practice that they must do every year with really, really strict mandates. And I refer, as you look at the top of the scale there with our colleagues in firearms, really, really strict criteria. How's that going to benefit them to say you've got to have a license to practice on top of that? And in order to get that license to practice, does that mean abstracting them away from the front line even more than what they already are? Because we already see a huge abstraction rate from all of these departments. That's not fair on anybody.
Who pays for it?
Good question. No, that's not clear. That's not clear. Would for our colleagues in nursing, for our friends, we've all got friends in nursing. Every year they have to pay for their nursing thing. Would it be right to say to somebody who's joined the police, I want you to pay X amount of pounds a year to be a police officer? Why? What other profession does that?
I think it's going to be interesting to see what your position is on it as and when. Again, these things I think will be politically down the road. But speaking of which, mergers, we've heard it all before. Deja vu over again. East Midlands is obviously a very big area. Could you merge with the other forces in that area? Will Cambridgeshire merge with Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire? There are, again, lots of questions. What's your view on the potential to have fewer police forces in England and Wales?
So with this, what I see is the same size cake being cut 12 ways, not 43 ways. There's nowhere involved in all of this that talks about an injection of money, that talks about trying to help with this. My concern in all of this, that we will have officers from Leicestershire, and if we look here at the officers in Loughborough or Market Harbour or Hinckley, who sit on the border with other forces, suddenly being told, right, you're off to patrol Nottingham, Birmingham, somewhere else for the day. They're going to spend half the shift driving. They're going to turn up to somewhere. They're not going to know who your local criminals are. They're not going to know anything like that. Part of the bedrock of policing is neighbourhood policing. It's your local cops knowing your local villains. And everything, all the way up to organised crime group, always starts with neighbourhood policing. It's your good neighbourhood cop who knows when there's something amiss, who knows what's going on at that house, who knows what the local villains are up to. That's where investment also needs to be given. And I don't see that with these big force mergers.
So you think it's just an excuse to save money and not actually make policing any better?
We need to see what the details of it are. And until we know what the details of it are, I'm quite happy to work with the government, but give us the details. We can't sign up for something when you haven't given us the fine print. Tell us the details about it. Tell us how it's going to work. Let us get on board with it and be part of it. Then we'll help out.
There appear to be a lot of headlines, but without actually much, a lot of style and not that much substance is perhaps one way of looking at it.
Absolutely. Could not agree more.
So what next then for mergers, for the licence to practice, discuss it nationally as a federation and decide the way forward there?
we've got to look and see what the details are that come out. We've also got to see what the input the Home Office is giving to my colleagues down at Leatherhead to see what it is that can be shared as well. We've got to see what actually sticks after the white papers come out, what the public are interested in. I can't see the public, your local residents in, let's say, Market Harborough or Hinckley or Loughborough, those towns I spoke about. Do they want to be patrolled by somebody from Birmingham coming over? Do they want somebody from Northampton who pops up? Or do they want the local officers who come by? And it's when you look at those
Leicestershire police officers.
Yeah.
So Leicestershire police officers presumably quite like working for Leicestershire Police, otherwise they wouldn't. They're quite
Absolutely.
proud of their cat badge.
Absolutely. But with all of that as well, with those super force mergers, is that looking at just IT? Is it looking at the uniform that's provided? Is it looking at the cars that are provided? Because there are other ways that can be used to save money without us working for a super force. You know, I completely get that IT, cars, things like that cost money. And with 43 individual contracts with forces, that can be expensive. But then give us the details behind all of that.